Here's a question for you, Mr. Rob.
Go far ahead.
If you could have been a teenager or maybe in your early 20s in either the 50s, the 60s or the 70s, which would you have chosen?
50s, absolutely, hands down the 50s.
No way.
I like the whole, hey honey, I made you pie. It's the hands thing. I love the clothing.
So you'd like to have been married in the 50s, is what you're saying?
Nat, I want you to dress in the whole 50s thing, do the hand thing, make the pie thing, especially the pie thing. And that would just, I mean, I'm already happy, but that would make me even happier.
Bringing this back to a guitar demonstration program, which it really is.
Wait, what about you?
What do you mean, when would I like to have been married?
50s, 60s or 70s?
No, in my teens and early 20s, absolutely the 60s. I would have loved to have seen the whole Beatles explosion and then Hendrix come along and
But
Cream
you get to
smash
live
it.
through the 60s if you're in the 50s.
Yeah, but you'd have been old by then, or older, and you'd probably have been a bit like, who are these kids, punks? I like Buddy Holly, he was the best.
What he was.
Well, he was very good, I agree.
Yeah.
So you're going 50s, but largely because you like the lifestyle.
Man, every single thing you could ever eat would have been free-range organic.
You'd have fought in the war if you'd have been, well, maybe not a teenager. If you'd have been a bit older, you know, like if you'd have been like 30 in the 50s, you'd have fought in the war.
But has there been a decade where there hasn't been war?
Well, in this country,
deep stuff.
Yes.
Deep things, you know.
Plenty of them. Anyway.
A war of the mind.
A war of the mind.
A war of the
worlds.
senses.
A war of the roses.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. A completely pointless little conversation there that leads us nicely into talking about three cool guitars from Squier, recently changed, upgraded if you like, in 2019 in the Classic Vibe series. Classic Vibe, probably the most bang for your buck of any guitar that I think we know of in the world. Right, Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Even including Chapman, Mr. Chapman?
Absolutely.
It's crazy. Classic Vibe. You can pick one of these up for like 300 quid, just over 300 quid, and you get a lot of guitar.
Yeah, I mean, if you close your eyes, wear a blindfold as I am oft to do, you'd be forgiven for thinking that my chair made a funny... It's not going to do it again now. It went...
Because that was Pete, that's why.
Was it really?
He was the one that made the noise and it sounded like the chair.
You'd be forgiven for thinking it was a more expensive Strat.
I don't know about forgiven. I mean, I would hold it against you forever, but some people would.
Right, okay. Classic snacks. What's your favourite crisps from yesteryears? For me, it's the old school Ringos. I really miss Ringos.
I liked Frazzles.
Frazzle. Remember the little pigs? The little
I'm pretty sure that what they've done recently is make Frazzles more healthy and they just don't taste as good anymore. But or I like those crisps where you used to have a little salt sachet in and you could put them in. Was that Smith's?
It was Smith's crisps, and they had the little blue sachet, so you could choose
my granddad,
how much you wanted to be dehydrated.
When I was in my teens, so we are going back into the 80s now. My granddad used to have a butcher's shop, and he used to buy out-of-date crisps from the cash and carry and sell them like really cheap without telling all the school kids they were out-of-date crisps.
And
don't think you get away with that these days.
That's where his family fortune came from.
He taught me everything.
Built on stale potato.
Through the Fender range, this is kind of cool because Fender makes sort of vintage inspired guitars right from Classic Vibe all the way up to custom shop. And kind of what happens is if you go full custom shop, somebody very clever at Fender, you know, dissects every element of how they used to make guitars in the old days and copies it. And then as you sort of come down the range, you'll find that it's kind of less of a copy and more of a nod towards that era. But until you get down to Squier Classic Vibe, and then really it's a visual nod to that era. So what in 2019 was changed on these guitars is the pickups were redesigned by Fender, Alnico 5 single coils, but it's the same set in each of these. So in proper, you know, more authentic Fender vintage reissue guitars, the pickups would have changed during that 30 odd years. But these are all the same. The neck profile, same, would have changed over that time, but hasn't changed on these. These are all a 60s style slim C neck. Body shape is all the same. You either have a choice of a maple fretboard, or if you do the 60s or the 70s, you have a laurel fretboard. So this is this rosewood alternative that's CITES friendly.
But although CITES is no longer an issue for rosewood.
By the time this video comes out, you're probably right. I think it goes on November the 16th or something.
Controversial. So I guess then the next run of these probably will be rosewood again.
I think at some point in the future you'll begin to see rosewood come back, but I think it could be years, because I think it takes a long time for guitar manufacturers to resource supply chains and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, same tremolo system on all three. Kind of basically would be faster to tell you what the differences are rather than the similarities.
Do that.
So, 50s guitars are made of pine.
Ooh.
How cool is that?
Like affordable furniture.
Yeah, Strats and Tellys made of pine. Some of the very early Fender stuff was indeed made of pine. But I think what they've chosen pine on these because it has a fairly similar grain to ash. So on the translucent finishes, it looks a bit more ash-like.
Also, pine is just a great tone wood. It's really toneful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why IKEA use it to make so much furniture.
Hey,
because it sounds great. Yeah,
on a bunk bed
I tell you,
made
it's
from
the
pine.
best sounding chest of drawers I've ever bought. So the 70s has the slightly larger headstock, which came in at the very end of the 60s. You might think of Jimi Hendrix with that.
I think of Yngwie.
Do you?
Yeah.
And the 50s has a single ply scratch plate because that was kind of its thing, whereas the 70s and the 60s have a 3-ply. But look, that's kind of the issue. The absolute hot diggity news about these guitars is that they are only £339 each.
That's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
It's just a bucket load.
What else do you need?
I like, and the tint as well. The tint, sorry, is a little darker. The taint is a little darker on these than they were on the previous ones. Like an old maple Strat that's gone dark over the years. Yeah. Or is it the guy that produces Bargain Hunt? Not produces. What's his name? David.
The guy that did Lovejoy.
David Dickinson. Is it basically? It's the colour of his skin. It's like I've had too many sunbeds or spent too much time in Marbella. Rob is plugged into a super affordable Boss Katana Mark 250 because we're kind of thinking if you're going to buy a guitar like this, you're probably going to have a slightly more affordable amp. However, if you've got a really great amp and you want to hear what one of these sounds like, I'm plugged into an expensive valve amplifier. So we've got two different sounding vibes for you here.
Is that the DP40 by any chance?
The DP40, Danish Pete 40.
That's what it stands for.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely doesn't
stand for anything else.
Stand for anything else, no. It sounds fantastic.
It does.
Try the 60s.
Interesting how it's louder.
Pick up height maybe marginally different.
It's a bit out of tune, but
these are straight out the boxes. The setups are as they come from the factories. I kind of do that on purpose, really, because it just is indicative of how one of these will feel if you just buy one, you know, from your favorite online guitar store like Andertons, or come to the store and try one. But yeah, they're set up great straight out the box. Vintage tuners.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
My one tip if you're going to buy one of these, would be to, when you buy it, buy a set of really good strings like Paradigm by Ernie Ball, because these are really skinny, thin. Look, I can move it.
They're 9 to 42 strings, which is great if you're a bit of a beginner, but you probably could go a bit heavier if you play a little bit. And they'll be affordable strings. I mean, these are not going to be like deluxe Ernie Ball anything.
Yeah, and it makes a massive difference. If you are a beginner, the string makes a huge difference. So I would just get some nice 10 gauge strings, and then if you find it a bit stiff, tune it down a semitone, or just man up or woman up, and then it'll sound a lot more. There'll be more low end.
I agree. Yeah, it's a super easy, cheap way of making your guitar better, isn't it? But anyway, so here's what it sounds like. Different amplifier, but this is the 70s. With a bit of gain, a little bit of light gain from a Dane. More gain.
It's just got a little bit more that thick end sound, you know.
I love it. I'm going to try the 50s one just to see if that sounds.
Well, I'll try that.
Rory, be a darling and put all the colours on screen that you can get these in, because that's the other main real difference between the 50s, 60s and 70s is Fender have tried to pick out colours that are synonymous with those eras within the Classic Vibe range. So maybe you'll see something you like here. 70s have got some of the fancier scratch plates on them. 50s and 60s are pretty traditional with what you'd see during that time. Could you string that back to front and play it left-handed?
Yeah.
I mean, because then you would look Jimmy-esque, wouldn't you, if you put a white scratch plate? Definitely lighter. The pine is lighter than the poplar. You like the 70s, do you?
I like
because
the
you're
weight.
A child of the 70s.
I am a child. I was born in the 1975.
I was born in a crossfire hurricane.
Yeah.
No, as was I. But I don't know what I like, really. I think I like the 50s ones. I like the colours on the 50s. I've always been a bit of a sucker for those pastel colours.
It just looks like cat vomit.
It looks like Hank Marvin is what it looks like. And there's nothing wrong with that.
He was always just in black and white whenever I saw him.
That's true.
I think this looks cool. I mean, I don't really dislike it, but this is banging. Crack-a-lacking, this one, mate.
Yeah. There you go. What else has it got? Looks like you get some free lessons with this from Fender when you buy them. Sign up here by following the instructions on the sticker. Hey, that's it really, I think, isn't it? Yeah. I'll put links in the description below. There are Telecasters and Jazzmasters and Jaguars and stuff also in this range. Mustangs as well. The Classic Vibe range is fantastic. I'm just putting it out there. It's fantastic.
Well, with Lee putting it out there, I'll say goodbye.
So will I. Goodbye.
Bye. I'll get Chris one then.